Hi Nick, how are you doing? Welcome to Leaders in Car Rental. I'm so excited to have you, on board, with this, and thank you very much for agreeing, doing this. And I was looking, at your profile. Of course, I know you, since a few years, and it's fascinating, really. Thank you very much, for coming on board.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you again. I've always enjoyed our conversations and the chance to catch up today after a few months is something I was looking forward to.
No, absolutely. And Nick, you have this decades of experience in car rental, from traditional software to, let's say, going a bit more digital, and then into EVs and stuff. How did you build this whole career, spanning over 25 years? And please, give me some insight how you got started, and then where you are now. How do you feel?
Sure. I feel great. I feel great, especially to be talking with you today. And I feel great to be at the end of year number two here with UFO Drive. We've had a really great experience so far. And as you mentioned, it's a 25-year road that led here. At heart, I'm sort of a software entrepreneur.
Right.
I got started some 25 years ago. My first software business was basically selling document automation to
Oh, right.
lawyers,
Oh, okay.
and
Wow.
and back then it was CD-ROMs and Y2K
Yeah, floppy
and
disks.
yeah,
Yeah.
floppy disk. It was a super exciting time, and I was sort of an anecdote from back then. We would literally go door to door to sell this stuff at the
Yeah.
time,
Yeah, I've
and
done that also.
yeah, you remember it. So I had I had a partner at the time say, Nick, tell me how you're selling all this lawyer software. Every time I go to a lawyer's office, there's a sign on the door that says no solicitors. I laughed. I told him, I said, I look for those signs because it means they had less salesmen come to the office that day and they were more excited to see me.
Right.
So it was exciting to sort of be a part of that as it was developing and innovating. And when I went to work for TSD, I think it was in 2001,
Right.
or might have been a couple of years later. My very first project was taking these locally installed car rental software customers and converting them to pay for software as a service, which
Oh,
was a new
wow. Wow,
concept.
those days. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so, so I've essentially kept that entrepreneurial spirit because I've always been a launch guy. So even at TSD, I was launching the innovative products, whether it was the first software as a service platform or it was the first browser-based, cloud-based platform, the first loaner car systems, or even launching our reservation distribution platform into the commercial space where it was really just a niche product at for a while. So I've kept that sort of entrepreneurial spirit, through my career, and it's part of what keeps things exciting and fun, even though some of these topics do repeat pretty regularly.
No, absolutely. And it's fascinating. So Nick, you have seen it all, right? Like, you have seen this industry graduating from a floppy disk to a CD-ROM to DVD, and then to USB stick to a cloud, right? So how the consumer has changed. I understand technology has changed. Companies who were doing everything on-prem, offering services on-prem, now they're on cloud. Tech is changing every single day. There'll be a new entrepreneur, opening something new tomorrow, and it is growing. How the consumer has changed, like the average car rental company owner, the operator, how they have changed to technology. Are they adaptive, or they're like, no, I'm happy with my, with my legacy system. I'm not really comfortable, going to a cloud. What about data migration? What about this and that? How they have changed, or they have also changed, like gradually.
Well, that's a really interesting question. How has the operator changed or the people I'm selling to changed?
Yeah.
I think things tend to go in cycles. You'll go through phases where there's a lot of innovation and experimentation,
Right.
and that leaves a lot of room for creativity and sort of revolutions. And then there are times where people want to wait and see. And at the end of the day, these fleet owners, these car rental operators are a certain segment of fleet owners.
Yeah,
And for the most part, car rental operators are in the business of buying vehicles
yeah,
and then selling vehicles.
absolutely.
And the majority of the profit and loss happens at that transaction level. And what happens in the middle is is left to this sort of creative piece. What do we do in between buying and selling software? Excuse me, buying and selling vehicles.
Yeah,
And so, short-term rental is one option, right? We've seen um, an increase in sort of different options, right? There was a time when nobody wanted to get involved in leases, but
right,
now leasing is very popular, particularly with higher end vehicles.
right.
And then we see this new topic becoming more and more mainstream, and that's of vehicle subscriptions.
Yeah,
And these
absolutely.
subscriptions are already super popular in Europe. Extremely high percentage of vehicle transactions are going on through subscription companies like Finn and others.
Yeah,
Um, and so I see this as an opportunity in the in North America now, because it's another option. And I think with the some of the challenges fleet owners face with electric vehicles, subscription can be a very attractive option. So how has it changed? I think fleet owners are always looking for new ways to increase the revenue of these vehicles in between buying and selling. And
right.
I also think that electric vehicles present some new challenges and opportunities.
No, absolutely. And also, you have mentioned something very, very interesting that, the vehicle subscription. I remember, for my father, a vehicle was an asset. It was my own property. Like, it was a increase in my, lifestyle. Like, I've bought, this car. Like, it's a milestone, but not anymore, right? So, we can subscribe to a vehicle as chunky as we like, or as simple as we like, and that is just car as a service. Use it month over month and then give it back. It is not yours. It is yours while you drive it, but then it's not yours, and you give it back. So even the behavior on the consumer and has also changed.
I think you said that well. And as a technology provider, what we're really trying to do is um, we're trying to implement technology that will solve the problems of different use cases. And so, it isn't one size fits all. There's a lot of vehicles out there and a
Yeah.
lot of ways to utilize those vehicles.
Yes, yes, yes.
And so, you know, what I'm mindful of is, uh, what does the company that I represent want to accomplish in that market?
Right.
There's a different answer. Like somebody could build the software and say, you know what, I want to target the entrepreneurs who, they used to have, Toro cars and now they want to expand a car rental company. You're going to have a different software program and a different marketing and
Yes,
strategy,
yes.
for reaching those guys than if the company's goal is, we want to automate electric vehicle fleets,
Yeah.
right? And so you come from a different point, and so it's sort of interesting to work in these different segments over the last couple decades and solve these problems, and really move the tech forward. So it keeps my mind active, and it makes every day a little bit different and a little new.
No, absolutely. And Nick, let's talk about EVs now, right? So now, of course, 4 or 5 years ago, there was only, let's say, Tesla. Now we have many other, even many Chinese companies are also producing fantastic EVs, like BYD, for example, right? And also we have Polestar. I think, again, a fantastic manufacturer, right? So let's be honest about this. Like, do you think that EVs still, for example, have a chance at short-term rentals? Because I know they have changed the game for subscription. Whenever I imagine in my head car subscription, the first thing I imagine is an EV. right? That's the real estate that they hold in my head, right? That's perfectly fine. But what about short-term spot rentals? EVs, do they have a chance or not yet?
Of course they do. And that's one of the most exciting things about UFO Drive is before I arrived, they set out to prove that you can have a really satisfying, successful, and profitable short-term electric vehicle rental.
Right.
And they went about to figure out how to do it. Um, and so it, not everybody listens, but what we try to tell people and what our technology allows for those types of entrepreneurs to do is provide a first class VIP rental experience without the need for a lot of staff, and with enough sort of rails so that that customer has a phenomenal EV experience. And
Right.
you can look at we launched the UFO Drive consumer rental brand some 5 years ago, and our Trustpilot scores are higher than like any other car rental company in Europe.
Oh,
And
right.
it's because we've taken all the hassles out of it. There's no queuing, there's no lines. If
Yes.
you need a charger, the
Yes.
app is right there to help you.
Yes.
It bothers you before you're too low to to solve those problems. And then we made it so that you don't have to bring the vehicle back charged, which is just like another hassle. So there's a right way to do it. But this technology that we built was just the beginning of something different. And the reason I came here is UFO Drive didn't just go out and build another car rental software. It's something different than that.
Yeah.
And so you'll see with our announcements of new clients, right? Whether it's Stellantis or the work we've done with Hertz, or others, these aren't straight up sort of car rental projects. They're something a little bit different. In the same way our software is something different. And that's really sort of what opened my eyes a few years ago, and gave me an aha moment, and sort of what led me here were just some of these big changes that happened in tech, and the car rental industry still hasn't caught up to those changes. And so, you know, do you remember the first time you used Uber to
Yeah,
get a ride?
absolutely. Yes, I do.
I mean, you must, like I did, have said, "Oh, this is something different,"
I completely
you
agree
know?
with you, and I can share the account with you. So the first time I used Uber was in London, in central London. So it was like 3 a.m. ish, right? And I came down from Stansted Airport, and I reached Victoria, right? And I was like, okay, I have to go to my hotel. So, and it was incredibly cold. It was end of November, I think after WTM or something. So I started my phone, and I called the car, and the car was coming to me in 3 minutes. Okay. And I'm like, this is game changing, man. This is fantastic. And I'm talking about many, many years ago, not recently, right? And I'm like, this is incredible. And forget about me. I'm a tech guy. My father, when he used Uber for the first time, he got goosebumps. He's like, this car is actually coming to me. Yeah, it is actually coming to you. It's on its way. In 4 minutes, it's coming to you. So it was fascinating, right? Game changing.
That absolutely. And, looking back, right, what was it that was different? Was the taxi business different? No, taxis have been around, as long as even before cars were around, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, and what was different is the technology behind Uber wasn't taxi management software.
No,
It
it wasn't.
wasn't software designed so that a taxi
Yeah,
dispatcher could
yeah,
take your phone call and send somebody to you. It
absolutely.
was the digitization of the taxi business,
Yeah,
and it was a taxi business in a box. And for me, I remember at the time talking to car rental companies, and I said, "Aren't you afraid of the disruption that this type of Uber technology
yeah,
will do?" And they said, "Oh no, we don't compete with
yeah.
Uber
Because it's car
because
with
that's a
driver.
taxi.
Exactly, it's a car with
That's a
driver. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah." In the meantime, I'm a businessman. And I loved national, right? I would show up, I would skip the line, drive
All
through
right. Yeah.
really was the best experience at the time.
Right.
But I stopped renting and I started using an Uber because I could just push a button and the car would take me to the hotel, and then the
Yes.
car could take me to the place I need to go. So without realizing it, car rental operators were losing lots and lots of business to Uber, and
For
this
sure.
was the case for a couple of years
For sure.
before their eyes kind of opened. And so what I've been fascinated with since that time, and that's why I went to work with Wonder Mobility, is Wonder started off as essentially an Uber copycat.
All right.
And when they went live in Germany, all the taxi operators showed up at their headquarters and protested. There's photos you can find online. Um, and so it's that type of disruption that I'm fascinated with. And at UFO Drive, I found that it was the first real technology to take that car rental, and have a real sort of automated approach. You know, it's not rental management software; it rents the cars for you. And in the same way that Uber handles the Uber technology handles the taxi business. And I found lots and lots of great applications for that type of technology along the way.
You have mentioned something very interesting here that, there was no need to bring the full charge car back, right? And I think that is very interesting because I have interviewed quite a few customers, who rent cars frequently, and I've asked them, what is your pain point? Like, let's say why you do not rent an EV, why it is not your first choice, and they said it's a time of charging. So for example, if you're using a fast charger, right, it will be slightly more expensive than a normal charger, right? And normal charger takes, hours, to charge, to give them a full charge, right? Do you think that in future that full charging will be as quick as now, in terms of gasoline? Because for example, so when I go to a petrol station, I can park my car, I can put petrol in my car. It takes 3 to 5 minutes, and my tank is full. I can go, grab a coffee, Costa, and I drive off. Within 6 minutes, I'm out back on the road with a full tank, right? Is it possible in EVs today? If not, when do you think it will be possible?
So that's not exactly possible right now,
No. Mhm.
but I tell you what, it's better all the time, and ultimately there will be parity. And
Right.
and and I think in the US that may be what the tipping point is.
Right.
Is when it's parity or at least close to it. You
Yeah.
know, today, and I'll confess, I'm a very happy driver of a 2022 Polestar 2.
Ooh.
And I
Okay.
love this car. I've got the
Oh, beautiful.
Pilot Plus package. It is gorgeous. And I have a charger at my house.
Right.
My wife and we talked about building software, for the right use cases.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And today, electric vehicles are right if you have the right use case.
Yeah.
My wife commutes 40 miles each way every morning. You
Right.
know, the, she wakes up, the vehicle is fully charged. She has no issues going to work or whatever other things she has to do after work,
Yeah.
and then coming back home and plugging it back in. It's
Right.
perfect. There's no oil changes.
Yes.
There's like no maintenance. There's no issues. The biggest challenge we have is potholes, right? It's a
Right.
heavy
Yes.
car. And
Yes.
so
Yes.
I've
Yes.
bent a couple rims,
Yes.
hitting potholes. Um, but I mean, if you think about that, I mean, there's no inconvenience, and it's way better for our use case because she never has to go to a gas station, right? It's
I
always
agree.
here.
100%. 100%.
Now, in the last few months, I can tell you it's gotten way better in terms of charging. So there's lots of DC fast chargers around. To go from 20% to 80%, you're probably about 20 minutes, 25 minutes. So you can pick up a sandwich, or there's TV in the car you can watch.
Right.
So it's getting better, and I think with each generation of battery tech and charging tech, it's just going to get that much better. So ultimately, it makes little sense for most consumers to have a combustion
Yeah.
engine in a vehicle. It's inefficient. It's not the best way to generate energy.
Right.
And regardless of sort of environmental opinions, which of course we are an environmental kind of we have a bend of environmentalism at UFO Drive, which is great. But regardless, even put that on a shelf. It's just not practical to be driving around, with these generators in our cars. It's inefficient.
Right. No, I completely agree with you. And also, I understand, your use case. I think it's ideal. So do you think that, you mentioned it's 25 minutes, on a DC charger, and, and you can sit in the car, watch something, maybe Netflix, and, have a sandwich, and it's ready for you, right? So, but do you think it will reach 10 minutes, or less than 10 in the next 4 or 5 years?
I do. I
Yeah.
do.
Right.
And I think it's there are people working really hard on that. There's technology, these 3D battery technology that's being developed. I think will be a game changer. And I think in the US, that's going to be super important, and so it's going to happen. Um, but in the meantime, we focus on use case by use case, and in some
Completely understand.
situations, EV is going to make sense. You think about, the success we've had in the logistics space at UFO Drive has been great, and a lot of it's because if you think about all the delivery vans out there, it's leaving a depot in the morning, it's driving around under 200 miles, it's going back to a depot at night. You know, you'll see the electrification of all kinds of things in the next couple of years.
I completely agree with you on this one. Let's talk about UFO Drive, right? So I would imagine your biggest market right now in the US, and then of course, branching out to Europe and other regions, right? How has the adoption been, and where do you see it right now? Like are you having a lot of bookings every single day? It is being used by consumers now, on the app, just like they would use an Uber. Give us some insights in how the behavior is changing on that front.
Sure. So, for us, our consumer platform, UFO Drive, is really a laboratory for our technology, and our software platform is called UFO Fleet.
Right.
And so the UFO Drive locations, we've got what maybe 12 in each, 12 in the US and 12 in Europe. So they're about equal in terms of size and scale. But our focus since I joined 2 years ago has been on expanding the reach of our software platform. And
Right.
so, while you'll see thousands of rentals every month from our UFO Drive consumer
Of course.
brand, there's multiples of that happening right now on the back end of our platform for our company, our clients in the car rental space, in the leasing and logistics space, and then also in the OEM space, where we're even doing things like automating test drives for dealership sales and things like that. So, yeah, uh, it, it's amazing to see these UFO Drive branded locations. And as a software sales guy, it's the best demo
Yeah,
I can give somebody
absolutely.
is a coupon for a free rental out of Amsterdam or Austin, and then they get it. They say, "Oh, this maybe my conception of EV rentals was wrong,
Right.
or maybe I can offer remote rentals for my car rental brand, or maybe I can expand, my business so that I can offer completely contactless van rentals way outside my territory." And do it in a way that means I can be responsive to the needs of my larger clients. And we're doing work like private fleets. We've got airlines where they have a fleet of vehicles they can just grab and go, and the car rental company that's using our technology automatically invoices them. I mean, you think about what you can do when you don't need to have full-time staff, and each use case is a little different.
No, absolutely. So there's a B2B angle to it, and also B2C. So it's very interesting. So Nick, I have a question, right? And this question, I think you are the best person to answer this question. Okay. So when we were in the COVID zone or COVID phase, right? There was this talk about keyless entry to the car. Unlock the car with a device, and it's waiting for you at the parking lot. Just go and unlock the car. Fine. And fast forward 2024, right? Do we still have the same love for that tech, or is it fading away? Let's be very honest about it. And you are the best person to give an answer on this.
That's great. It comes back to the use cases, and you know You said it one way, and I've heard it another. So during COVID, you would think, oh, what a perfect time to offer contactless car rentals.
Yes.
And so I'm on the phone with the manufacturer and I'm
Mhm.
explaining this. And he says back to me, listen, people are so worried about germs. Car sharing is way out. Nobody
Okay.
wants to share anything.
Right. Okay.
And so you can say, you know, you could take it one way or the other. And it's like that with all different technologies. It's about the use case. And
Right.
so um, UFO Drive's consumer fleet did really well during the pandemic because it
Right.
offered a traditional car rental experience. The vehicles were cleaned and sanitized in
Yeah.
between each rental.
Yeah.
You know,
With
you got
keyless.
essentially a
Yes.
brand new car every time, and
Right.
people loved that during the pandemic. But what people didn't love during the pandemic is sort of like your free floating model, and we saw a lot of that shut down. You know, you didn't want to get in a dirty car share car,
Of
you
course.
know, during the
Yes.
um, so just to not to go too long on that question, based on these use cases, we've done all sorts of implementations. So if you think about a panel van, right, you don't want to take a lot of time to install a special device if
Exactly.
the vehicle is going to
Exactly.
get beat up and
Yeah.
run
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
through and there's lots of volume. So you just look at the use case and you say, well, does it make sense instead to go with a secure key machine so that you do everything on the app as if the vehicle was going to unlock, but instead
Exactly.
a key comes out of a vending machine.
Exactly. From the
And
drawer, it comes out, and then you can go and unlock the car. Yeah.
that's right. Or you might see a key box in the window or these sorts of things. So in the situations, and you also have to be mindful, ultimately, all of this is going to be controlled by the vehicle manufacturer when they figure out how to license those capabilities securely.
Right.
So ultimately, it's going to be, General Motors that's going to allow us to securely lock and unlock a vehicle on behalf of our clients, or Stellantis, or Toyota, or any number of these companies. Um, you know, it the fleets will cycle out. These older vehicles will be gone. The newer technology will have secure lock, unlock, and enable, and then you don't have to worry about it so much. And the third parties, we've got great partners at companies like Inverse and Geotab and others that are there to fill in the gaps until the manufacturers are ready to let that rip.
No, absolutely. So, my next question actually was about this, right? So we have many tech companies, who offer this capability, and they can make any car capable of a keyless entry, right? Like you mentioned, Geotap, Inverse, and there are many others as well, right? But we also hear about connected cars, and manufacturers are now also giving you the API to let's say do a certain things, with the car using an API, and one of that also is basically unlocking, right? Locking or unlocking. So what are the manufacturers right now as we speak who offer this capability, or is it still in the basic stages?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, I'm in a position to know maybe a little bit more
Yeah.
than some people, and maybe to know a little bit more than I can share.
Right.
Um, what's interesting in that is, you see General Motors has transformed sort of that bright drop into GM Involve,
Right.
which is really a technology company for B2B use cases. And so you see them sort of, I think, along with OnStar, like controlling that and getting it ready. All right. And then at the same time, I think you'll find similar projects with Toyota and the Asian manufacturers. And then when you look at companies like Stellantis, you've seen um, whom we're happy to be partnered with,
Right.
you've seen that evolve as well as Stellantis acquired other manufacturers. They've attempted to centralize the control of that vehicle data.
All right.
First, it was under free to move, and now they've free to move has always had sort of a different focus, so they've sort of moved that, and so they're all working on it, and I think you'll see it happen first for large fleets and large fleet owners, and then you'll see that become more and more available for others. In the meantime, you have some pretty cool companies that are making up the difference, like Smart Car, for example, sort of takes your consumer login and spoofs it into like a platform,
Right.
which is and that's worked great for car sharing operators and those types. So it's wherever there's a use case, there's some creativity
Right.
to
Absolutely.
make it happen.
Absolutely. So Nick, enough of the industry talks, right? So let's talk about being an entrepreneur and a journey of a person, right? So Nick, I mean, you have been working since so many years. I'm sure you must have had low phases in life. We have high phases, we have low phases, right? How do you deal with a low phase in life? Having such a long career.
That's interesting. I think that with challenges, as a sales guy, you learn that with challenges, it creates new opportunities, in solving those challenges. And what's pretty cool about our industry is you have the rising and falling
Yes.
of vehicle values in
Yes.
the aftermarket that can sort of keep things interesting. I was in the industry. I was in the software world, during 9/11. I've been through, I think, three different
Right.
major economic downturns at this
Yes.
point.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
and you're not always in the lucky spot,
Yes.
right? Somebody gets lucky. Every one of these downturns where you think that you're losing, somebody else is winning.
Sure.
And so the ability to um, sort of have your eye on the big picture and work there. For me, it's always about disruption. I'm always trying to say, you know, where can I put my bet so that it has the biggest payoff? And with UFO Drive, um, for me, it was about listen, EVs are coming. It might not be as fast, but if we can figure out how to implement fleet businesses for in an automated way like Uber, but for EVs, there's
Yeah.
a lot to gain in that for everybody. But so I think it's looking at those opportunities, looking at those challenges as opportunities, and then seeing what you can be doing, to capitalize on that disruption. And then one thing I do want to say is during the pandemic,
Yeah.
when things were in question, right? We weren't quite
Yes.
sure where things were going to go.
Yes.
What was really important to me was a group of close colleagues and allies in the industry, outside the industry. We put together networking groups. I remember Chris Anderson from Inverse, who's a good friend of mine, Jason Cardosi, Eddie Crespo. Like, we would get together weekly as like a networking group,
All
but it
right.
was also to keep our sanity.
Oh, very
And
nice. So it was like a support, like you have a chat, and you get this peer support, from from the group. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, exactly. And it was helpful to keep our fingers on the pulse. Find some of these trends, and so you can work together to get through some of those things. You know, um, and I think that leads to closer relationships, and uh, maybe the next time things change, you have a model, and sort of something you can fall back on. So,
No,
that was helpful.
absolutely. And so Nick, we will conclude our episode with one very important question, right? So our audience is based on, of course, car rental enthusiasts, founders, entrepreneurs, business owners, and also startup tech founders, right? And one thing that I find that in tech founders, companies that actually fail, they don't work, is because they don't have the commercial skills or skills to sell, let's say, what they have built. And you have decades of experience in terms of commercial strategies and selling, building relationship. So what's the key to build incredible, long lasting commercial relationships?
You know, I think it's similar to working internally with other staff, other
Right.
teammates too.
Okay. Mhm.
I think there's a certain set of skills that goes along with it. One way I like to look at it is I use an acrostic. I use the word staff,
Okay.
STAFF, and for me the S stands for speed.
Okay.
Okay, the T stands for trust.
Okay.
Right, if you're going to work fast, then you got to trust people.
Okay.
And um, A
And
is accountability,
okay. Okay.
right? And then the last two are really important. The first F is for fun. You have
Okay.
to like what you're doing. And then the
Yes.
last F is for forgiveness. Because
Okay.
if you're doing all those other things, you're all going to make lots of mistakes, and we're all in it together. And, so the advice I have is to value people first.
Yes.
And, and, and that actually comes full circle to what we talked about because, at UFO Drive, we've built a customer experience platform,
Right.
right? You know, for years, technology providers in the space didn't want to handle the end user.
Right.
If you wanted a website, you had to build that yourself. If you wanted an app, you had to build it yourself. What we've done at UFO Drive is focused on the customer, whether it's the driver of a fleet vehicle or the renter of a airport rental, and try to value that person. And so for entrepreneurs, that's what I would say is, who are you trying to sell to? How do you best take care of them? And the only way you're going to do that is by taking care of your own people.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's a fantastic thought. So, yes, people first. I think that is a fantastic thought. Nick, thank you very much, for this, sharing all your thoughts, with us. We talked about so many things, and it's my honor to have you on the show. Thank you very much.
It's an honor to be here with you. I really enjoyed it. Thanks, Amar.
Cheers. Thank you very much.